talk. So if you don't want to be on that recording, please keep your camera and your mic off, and then you won't show up at all. Everything in the chat won't show up as well, so that should keep you all private. Just still letting people in. Okay. All right, so hello everyone, and welcome to Leeds Libraries Tech Talk. My name is Claire Duffield and I'm Digital Engagement Librarian for Leeds Libraries, which means I get to do cool stuff like code clubs, tech talks, tech moms, and you know, meet lovely people like our speaker today, who is Alice Chance from Transition Partners. And we've also got Ian McArdle today.
Hello.
Thank you, Alice. And we've also got Ian McArdle today from 100% Team, who's going to tell you a little bit about what they do. I'm just going to go over some of our ground rules for anyone who didn't hear them as they were coming in. If you can keep your mic turned off, that would be absolutely brilliant. And that just means you won't disturb our lovely speakers. And it will also mean that you won't show up on our recording as well, which will go on to Leeds Libraries YouTube. You can have your video on if you want to interact that way. This is a really kind of chilled talk series. It's not a webinar, and we want you to interact if you can. And let me think if I'm seeing anything else. Fabulous. So we wanted to start these tech talks to make sure that we stayed connected to our communities. We started them in lockdown when we were doing our tech mums. And we had to go fully online, and we wanted to keep in touch with our tech mums. But since then it has developed and we've opened them up, and they are now open to anyone to come in and view. Like I say, we put them on YouTube, so anyone who misses it today can watch it on there, and please do share away. You can tag us in at Leeds Libraries if you want to talk about what you've heard today as well. And we really wanted to create a really accessible and open network for people. So you don't have to have big skills and experience in tech and digital to join us on one of these. You can join us and find out a little bit more and hopefully be inspired to become creators of technology and digital yourself. We want to share ideas and resources to help you to be able to do that. So today, the one in order is going to be Ian, and he's going to talk to you about 100% Digital Leeds, and then we'll go on to Alice, and she's going to talk to you about diversity and inclusion and also her vlog. Ian is a very busy man, and he is going to have to leave after his talk. So please, if you've got any questions from Ian, please put them in chat, and I'll just say hello in there as he is talking, and I will ask them after he's finished talking, and then we'll move on to Alice, and you can ask questions again in chat for Alice, and I will ask her at the end. Okay, and I think that's everything from me so far, so I'm going to ask Ian to take it away. Thank you, Ian.
I'll just share my screen. Okay. So I work as a digital inclusion coordinator on a programme of work called 100% Digital Leeds. I'm going to give you a little bit of a whistle-stop tour of what that is. It's a Leeds City Council-led movement. It's aimed at making Leeds the most digitally inclusive city for all by working with and within communities to build capacity, connectivity and confidence at a grassroots level. I'm one of Claire's colleagues at Leeds Libraries. This is the work that I do. We all sort of know that there are lots of people who are unable to get online for a variety of reasons. And this has really only been highlighted by the pandemic and the lockdown. We want to improve digital access, digital skills, and digital support those who need it most in the city. There are about 9 million in the UK who are they have very low engagement with anything digital. 7 million of those, they don't have any internet in their home. This translates roughly to tens of thousands of people in Leeds who are either offline or they lack the skills to really make the most of the online world. So, as I say, we work citywide and we're a dedicated digital inclusion team. We try and meet everyone in the community. We try and go there. We listen to people who we might have not met before. We try and learn from them. We try and shape an approach to digital inclusion that works for people, that, in a way that's accessible to them, in a way that suits their needs, their desires, their wishes. And we do this by really talking with the people who know them best, the sort of intermediaries around the city, many of whom are third sector organisations, some are health and care. These are the people who are often really well placed to reach some people who can be quite digitally and socially excluded. And they've got that kind of expert knowledge. They also have that bond of trust, that rapport with certain people as well, who are trying to reach. We take a very much a furthest approach when it comes to digital inclusion. And as I said at the start, we want to make Leeds the most digitally inclusive city for everyone. Our approach is very much strengths-based, person-centered. So we look at the individual and we try and get people to think about what they need, what challenges they may face, what motivates them. And we try and do that because we know that digital inclusion being digitally included rather, can help people live a happier, easier, healthier life. And it may seem strange for a tech talk, but personally speaking, the main reason I do this job is because it's really very much from a social inclusion perspective. Digital is a kind of means to an end. It's not the end in itself. It's a tool to achieve social inclusion and greater diversity and inclusivity in all aspects of life. So digital exclusion goes hand in hand with social exclusion. And if you look at this map on the slide, those dark areas around the centre of the city, that's where the bulk of our work is concentrated, the inner city areas. And it goes as no surprise that that's where digital exclusion is highest. It's also where social exclusion is highest, where more people are struggling with poverty and its effects. It's where there are less amenities, lower levels of educational attainment. As you can see there on the right of the slide, people who are digitally excluded are more likely to be older, poorer, isolated, and face barriers such as when it comes to learning stuff, which may be disabilities, it may be a lack of English speaking abilities, it may be that they live quite chaotic lives. And we want to reach these people and help them sort of affect social inclusion through digital. So the reason all these can be compounding barriers, the main thing that always come up are a lack of access. That can often be due to the cost of broadband and things like that, or a device or data. A lack of skills and confidence, people not knowing what to do, and a lack of motivation, and so not really understanding the benefits of being online. And we kind of have a raft of solutions to try and help people overcome these barriers. We run a tablet learning scheme where we have over 400 iPads, all with mobile data. We lend them to organisations so they can reach these people, whether that's lending them to the individuals themselves or helping them through their first steps doing things online. We also help with the connecting communities, such as installing Wi-Fi in community centres, tablet box, places in the community where people we want to kind of hit those places where the people are. We help get funding for organisations. So to the COVID-19 pandemic, £100,000 with through our work and with Forum Central and other stakeholders in the city has been set aside and has been given to third sector organisations to help them digitally connect, help them just to lockdown and help make their lives easier. We train digital champions all across the city. That's free training where we show how to overcome the barriers that people can face and how to motivate people to take their first step doing something online. And we connect organisations all across the city. In pre-lockdown times, we would hold events where we brought people together to share common challenges and best practice, and to start partnerships with one another. So everyone's more connected and everyone's got digital inclusion on their agenda. And I'm just going to finish with a couple of examples of this in practice. Seacall scheme provides emergency access to accommodation for young adults, often who've not had a start in life, and they support their clients to sort out any problems in their life, to help them access education, benefits that they're entitled to, training opportunities, and employment opportunities as well. They approached us saying they wanted some digital capability in their organisation. There were people who had things to complete, forms, whether that's universal form or enrolling for a college course or whatever it may be. They struggled to get access to do that in a way that was safe and accessible to them. So we lent them iPads, we gave them some training, which you can see in the picture, and the outcome being that their residents, their young people, being less isolated, being more connected with people, more independent, and able to take all of their own affairs rather than it being this huge thing looming over them. They've been able to sort things out there and develop some basic skills, enroll for college courses, find work, and it's made a great impact on their life. And the second one is something that's aimed at older people. We had a funding opportunity that came up to work with a neighbourhood network scheme within the city, Crossgates and District Good Neighbours, to set up a digital health hub. So that was a link between doctors' surgeries and who may want to help people manage their healthcare better and be able to order their prescriptions online rather than having to trail out when it's maybe cold or icy or snowing or whatever. Them being able to access things remotely, and they trained volunteers and coordinated them at the neighbourhood network with my colleague Rachel's support, and we were able to have this thing where when there was a real good partnership between the doctors and the neighbourhood network scheme, and they were both aware of what each other did, and they could signpost people into the health hub to receive digital skills training so they could do all manner of things, whether that's being more independent by managing their healthcare, to connecting with their families, learning how to use WhatsApp or learning how to use Facebook or Skype or Zoom or whatever it may be, with the result that now in lockdown, that training has really put them in good stead to manage the challenges that lockdown has caused, so that they can hold all their events virtually, and people still get to see each other, they still get to participate in activities, and as well as in online health information and services, which again have been a vital lifeline at this time. And that's pretty much it from me. Please do take a look at our website, and I'm here to answer some questions. If it comes to you later, you can always email them to me. I'll hand it over to Claire.
Thank you so much, Ian. You're doing such a lot of amazing work across the city. It's really inspiring. So yeah, as Ian said at the end, you can get in touch with Ian or the team. I've put the link into the chat as well. And yeah, thank you very much for joining us, Ian. If anyone's got any questions for Ian, if you get them in the next minute, I can ask him. And we're going to go on to Alice, who's Alice Chance from Transition Partners. And she has created a wonderful, wonderful vlog full of lovely people of Leeds talking about what they think of diversity and inclusion. And you should really check it out. And that's what she's going to talk to us a little bit about today. Not got any questions for you, Ian, but if anyone does send any in, I will send them over to Ian and he'll be able to answer you. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us, Ian. Okay, and I'm going to hand over to Alice now. Thank you, Alice.
Hello, and thank you for the introduction, Claire. My name's Alice Chance, and I am a tech recruiter and diversity inclusion advocate. I work at Transition Partners, and we recruit across the tech and digital sector, whether that's in Leeds, we kind of do the whole of the UK, Berlin, we're trying to stretch out to Amsterdam. We do lots of recruitment basically, and how I got into my role as a sort of D&I advocate and how I sort of transitioned this into my role as a recruiter was because I noticed sort of the clear sort of lack of representation for lots of groups within tech, especially sort of women, anybody that was sort of LGBTQ+, anyone that was Black, anyone that was Asian. There was a very clear underrepresentation of this from the people that I'd personally hired, the companies I was working with, the people that they were hiring. And I kind of wanted to change that and sort of break the mold that's been created by recruiters and see what we can do. So I have a presentation. I'll just open it. Cool. Okay, that's my first step. So digital diversity and kind of what it means to me is advancing diversity to create an inclusive and accessible space for all within the digital and tech sector. That's just kind of it in a bit of a nutshell, I guess. The stuff that Ian was just speaking about as well, to do with accessibility, is a whole other topic within diversity and inclusion, but also really important. So what is diversity and inclusion? A bit of a stupid question, but it covers so many different brackets. But diversity itself is understanding that each individual is unique and appreciating your uniqueness and what makes you you. Whereas inclusion is a universal human right, but also it's the embracing people irrespective of their race, gender, sort of disabilities, accessibility, age, thing like that, and just welcoming and accepting everybody in a sort of very equal way. Recruitment, or what I saw within my first year and a half, was very much cultural fit. We need somebody to come and join their business on a cultural fit. It wasn't about cultural add, which I think is really important. I think it's very one-sided. I worked with companies and I need somebody that's going to fit into the team and they're going to get along with everybody really well and they're going to just be natural. But that isn't what I personally think makes a good team, and that isn't what the statistics show makes a good team. Having different people from different backgrounds coming together and working together is probably one of the best things you can do for your team. Teams that are diverse and companies that are diverse do make more money in a sort of business point of view than people that are just very one-sided. So sort of tech industry statistics, this is a bit depressing, I always think when I read this, but there are currently only 17% of the tech industry of women, 8% are disabled and 21% of those are over 50. 83% of tech executives are white. There are more CEOs named John than there are women CEOs. 2.6% of people on UK tech boards come from an ethnic minority. 2/3 of tech leavers, though, would say that they would have stayed at their current employer if they'd fixed their work culture. People with Chinese, Indian or Pakistani sounding names are 28% less likely to be invited to an interview than an English sounding candidate. This is something as well which I've actually witnessed a colleague of mine's witnessed firsthand at other recruitment agency that she used to work for. She was told to send people with English sounding names rather than people who had different sounding names, which is awful. And yeah, things like that are why I kind of had to come in and rethink what we were doing. Not at Transition Partners, but just recruitment in general. Black, Asian and mixed ethnicity candidates are more likely to be overqualified than white employees. 16% of autistic adults in the UK are in full-time paid employment. And 1 in 10 LGBTQ plus employees have left their job because they felt unwelcome, and 32% of LGBTQ plus employees hide their sexuality, which is something I know quite a lot about. From somebody that I've had in my vlog, they found it really difficult to get a new role once they sort of came out as trans, and they really struggled finding a new position. And almost a third of non-binary people and 1 in 5 trans-shaped people don't feel comfortable to wear their sort of expression to work, which is very disgusting. It was these sort of statistics that I looked at that really made me rethink what we were doing in the recruitment industry, because there's things that we can do to help this and to stop this from being a thing, because it shouldn't be. You know, we, especially in Britain, say that we're a very equal and fair country and that we're very diverse, but if you look at these statistics, we're quite clearly not at all, and especially within the tech industry. So one of my first steps at Transition Partners was to look at how we do recruitment and sort of work from within our business and what we're currently doing. Why did I only hire 3 people into a role last year that weren't white? I looked at the CVs that I sent to people, to send to employers, and there was the people I was sending was diverse. We were advertising roles in a very sort of diverse way. We were using different types of advertisements, but I don't know whether that was then the clients we were working with, they weren't hiring in a diverse way. So we created a diversity and inclusion policy, which we sent around to all of our clients and told them what our new aims were as a business and what we would like to do to create a bit more inclusion within the tech industry. And one thing we do now as well is we hide people's names, we hide people's genders, we hide people's universities on CVs, just to make it a bit more of an even playing field. We don't want anyone to sort of be rejected for a role because of something that I can't help. So one of the things in recruitment, a big thing is you need to spend money. It isn't going to be free. Diversity and inclusion workers are often, especially within businesses, it usually lends on the person. So I've spoke to a lot of people recently that after sort of the George Floyd and Black Lives Matter movement, and the Black employees were the people that then had to run the diversity inclusion groups within their role. They were the people that were having to take on all this emotional labour, and they were doing this for free, as well as their job already. They were doing this, they were then having to put systems in place, they were having to take calls, they were having to answer questions, and they were doing this in such a way that was so emotionally draining and taxing on them. There has to be a different way to do this. Money needs to be spent, there needs to be recognition for this, there needs to be potentially pay rises. It isn't a quick fix, diversity inclusion within businesses. There needs to be massive structural changes within an organisation with a long-term goal. D&I isn't a destination. Everyone says it's a journey. It's not. You can't just spend a bit of money on it once. It has to be something that's ongoing. And yeah, there's always new things to learn. We think in 10 years' time, what we'll be talking about will still have the same issues at our core, but hopefully they'll be slightly different, and we'll be living in a much better way, but it needs to have money spent on it. Looking at branding websites and company policies, so I looked at a lot of tech companies and I go on their pages and I look at their meet the team, and the whole team is old white men. Every single one of them, and maybe there's a woman and she works in HR, but everything else is just old white men, and you have to see what that comes across like to other people. If I was to apply for a job, would I apply for a job where everyone in there is an old white man? Probably not, because I think their values and their core, like at their core, that would be what they were as a business. I don't think they would really be highlighting diversity and inclusion. I was speaking to somebody the other day that said, you know, I want to get somebody to do something. I want to get somebody onto my podcast, but I'm struggling to find female Black CEOs to come onto it. And I said, well, number one, you're not looking in the right places, probably. Number two, there is such a lack of sort of diversity with Black CEOs, but they are out there, but you're not looking in the right companies and you're not working for the right businesses. So that's another good thing. It's like, it is structural. We need to change it from the inside, and it needs to be big changes. Recruitment processes. So this is what I was saying earlier. So we now, as a company, anonymize all of our CVs. We work as a business. I send out sort of bi-weekly emails to the staff, and that's about sort of anything to do with gender issues, race issues, anything I've read that I think is interesting, because as a business, I think everyone should have a bit of a level playing field. We should all believe the same thing. We should all be anti-racist. We should all be allies. And I'm going to push this down your throat until you agree with what I'm saying, basically. So I send this email out to everyone. And yeah, there's quite a lot you can do with your recruitment processes. So Microsoft have done this autism recruitment process, and what they've done is they've changed traditional recruitment. Lots of people who work in tech, especially when it comes to like software development, have autism, and sort of coding and having that structure, it works really well for people who are autistic, and they can really thrive within this position. But they're having to apply for jobs where they're having to send a massive CV about themselves, and they're going to have to write about themselves really and flourish it and put loads of words in there and big themselves up, and this isn't within their nature. They're having to then do telephone interviews, video interviews, face-to-face interviews, and they're going to have to sell themselves in a way that they're, for one, never going to have to do in their job, because they're just going to be working in their job, sort of, they'll be sat at their desk and that's what they do, or they'll work from home. And they're now doing a coding challenge first. They're doing allowing people just to work from home. They're allowing people different desks if it works better for them. It's really interesting. If you search the Microsoft Autism program, you'll see sort of what they're doing. It's the companies like that that are really sort of breaking the mold. And I know for one myself, like if I was to look at a council application process, I wouldn't be able to do it because it's so competency based. I work well being in this position. I work well talking to people face to face and sort of doing video interviews. So for me as a person, I'd do really well if I had to send someone a video and introduce myself like that. Whereas other people do really well writing it down, or other people do really well with a challenge. And I think that over the next few years, the sort of application processes for roles are really going to change and sort of break down the walls. It isn't one fits all, and yeah, that seems to be what it still is though for recruitment. We get a lot of people saying to us, I need a coder to come in, and they've got to have the most amazing personality, and they've got to be able to do this, and they've got to be able to do that, and they need to be really outgoing, they need to be really confident, and they need to stand up and, I don't know, find the person that's best for your role. They might not be exactly what you're looking for, but you need to have a bit of difference in your team. And the last one, or sort of this is a bit of a quick fix list, is to speak to your team and you just ask them what they think can be improved. What do the people around you, what do they think can be done to attract diverse talent? What do they think that can be done to sort of keep people working for them that are from different backgrounds, that aren't just, you know, your standard white or British male? Speak to different people, get different people in. You know, look at your company. What holidays are you celebrating? Do you just celebrate Christmas, or do you celebrate Eid? Do you look at different things like that? I saw more people post on LinkedIn about National Dog Day than I did ever see anybody post about Bali or anything like that. It's opening your company out to different lifestyle backgrounds. You know, we're not sort of a Christian white country anymore, and we need to change that in a big way. But these are just a few things, but I'm always happy to talk to people in a bit more detail about what I'm doing, what good companies are doing at the moment to sort of promote diversity and inclusion. So I was on a vlog called Everyone's Invited to My Party, which is a digital diversity vlog. I speak to people, a lot of people, so mostly people in the tech or digital industry, about how they got into their role, what sort of things struggles they've faced, how they're finding it now. But I use it as a tool to empower people through telling their own story, because everyone has their own unique story. And I find a lot of the time people are afraid to ask questions. I got one coming up soon with somebody that's non-binary, and they were saying to me, no one feels comfortable asking me what they should call me or what my pronouns are and everything like this. And I just would like people just to ask the question, or just, you know, I'm not afraid to speak about it, but other people are so afraid to ask these questions. So I kind of ask questions that other people are afraid to do in that vlog, and normalize these conversations, because they are, somebody rather be called by their actual pronouns and do just nothing, which I think is a lot of the time. So on my vlog, I've had lots of different people. So Claire's been a guest on it. She was fantastic, and she spoke about digital accessibility and sort of women returning to work. I've had people speaking about like socioeconomic issues, so homelessness, and sort of getting into tech from that perspective. I've had somebody in on the vlog that was trans, and sort of what issues they've faced and how they think the tech industry can improve to be more inclusive. I've also had a woman in who had an amazing career in tech, but sort of lost her job because she was in an abusive relationship, which just completely cut her life off. She had to move, and she had to then look after her 2 children. How she's slowly getting back into a job into tech from that situation. There's so many different things that can happen to somebody in their life, and yeah, it's been a really good series, just speaking to people and finding out what they've been able to sort of achieve and what have been their setbacks, and how they're sort of progressing now into like a more inclusive place. But yeah, it's been fantastic. And I also host an event series. So this is just with other tech professionals who are really passionate about diversity inclusion, or they work for companies that have really good diversity inclusion strategies in place. So 2 of these now, I did my second one today. They're fantastic. So it's just myself and a few speakers. We get people to enter questions beforehand, and we just talk about best practices, what they're doing, what issues they're seeing, what positives they're seeing, because I feel like a lot of the time people speak about the sort of negatives and they don't speak about the positives, and what we can actually do to be proactive on this, and how we can be proactive about sort of equality within the tech industry. All of those are available on YouTube, which I can send over after the presentation. But yeah, I don't know if anybody's got any questions for me. I will close my slideshow.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Alice. You're doing...
I'm just proud I worked out how to close the slide.
You've been amazing. I know it's hard to do tech and talk at the same time. It's multitasking. And I know as women are supposed to be able to do that. I'm not always great at it. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed everything you said. Really quite depressing figures though. And I just can't believe, you know, the maybe unconscious bias, but possible, I don't know, bias that people like recruiters, not recruiters, but people who are recruiting have when they look at a CV and see a name that isn't British, or, you know, age or anything like that. I just can't believe that's still going on, really. So we've got a question. We've got a question for Ross on that subject, and he's asking, have you seen any change movement since sending blind or anonymous CVs? Has the conversion rates improved?
Yeah, actually, I think it's going to be one of those things that's going to be a bit of a longer process, and actually seeing, I guess in the middle of a pandemic probably isn't the best time to be looking at recruitment figures, unfortunately, especially things are getting a bit worse. But yeah, I've actually noticed, so since I've come back to work, I've hired 5 people, three of those have been women, and two of those women had from Indian heritage, and I also hired a black male into a role, just from completely anonymous CVs. But the company I was working with as well are already pretty up there with the sort of diversity inclusion anyway. But I think for sort of the bigger corporate companies, I'm looking forward to seeing how that works, and whether they sort of adapt to that, because other recruitment companies aren't doing this still. So it's whether we can sort of push it through to other businesses as well, because I think sort of everyone needs to be on board with it.
Fantastic. And Russell's also shared in the chat for everyone ukblacktech.com to have a little look at that. I've not looked at that. I don't know if anyone else has. So that might be a good top tip. And also Kathy, who's on today, will be sharing some names of like top black CEOs, so I can share that out as well. Might be good for your vlog. You might be able to find someone to speak on your vlog. Kathy might be interested in speaking on your vlog. I don't know. Yeah.
So UK Black Tech, there's also another really good, interesting group called UK. Let me just try and find it.
Fabulous. That's it. If
and
anyone else,
coding, which is really cool. Yeah, it's called blackgirlscode.com, and they're a really cool company. They do a lot into coding and trying to get women into there.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, if anyone's got any links or tips that they want to share in chat, you're absolutely welcome to do that as well. That's what we're here for. It's an open kind of discussion. And another thing, I was on a talk yesterday as well, a panel about diversity and inclusion, and it was about light disability and you're talking about autism, but it's so they were also talking about someone who's lost their hand or returning from like long-term illness and stuff. How do they get back into the industry, and are people in like positions of recruiting, are they making allowances for those people when they do come back into their company, like flexible working and equipment and things like that? Have you seen an issue with that as well, Alice? Or
definitely. So I know that a lot of the time, say if I was to look for somebody and I look on new sort of job boards or whatever where people are putting their CVs, and somebody's got a big space on their CV and it says off work for personal reasons, I know a lot of people would normally be put off by that. Like a lot of recruiters would be put off by that because it's like, why were they off work? I don't even know if they think it wasn't because of illness or like long-term illness or something. It could even have been like depression or something like that. They were off work, but a lot of the time I think people jump to the thought that this is, oh, they're off work because they couldn't find a job, or they're off work because they're not very good, or I think there's so many prejudgments that are made, because especially because you have to work in a very quick way, especially if you work in a competitive role. There's lots of, you want to find the best talent, and if someone was to look at a CV and someone's not had a job for 5 years, would they think I'm going to send that person forward? Probably not. I don't know how this is something that obviously needs to sort of be like changed and something that needs to be done, whether that's sort of these people are getting in contact with recruiters beforehand, so if someone was to contact me and say I've not had a job for 5 years, but these are the reasons and this is what I can do, they'd be on the forefront of my mind, and I think I can send this person to this role. But I guess it's sort of getting those people sort of a network where they can speak to recruiters and say, I haven't been in work, but I need to find a job, and it doesn't sort of put someone off at first glance. I don't know whether that's some kind of network that needs to be made of returners from like long-term time off or something.
Yeah, definitely. It's a difficult thing. I think, yeah, like you were saying, teams need to be diverse, and if teams are diverse, they're all individuals, aren't they? So everyone needs their own ways of working and resources to be able to allow that, and that's what will make a company strong. I hear a lot about how human skills are just as important as tech skills, and I suppose that might put off people with autism and that kind of thing. So that's not always helpful, possibly. Yeah.
The amount of clients we work with that say we want to work with, we want to find a coder or a developer or someone that's really outgoing, really chatty, and really personable, and we just, I don't. There will be some people out there, so it's not everyone who, obviously I'm not saying everyone who's coding has got autism, they are more inclined to not take on that kind of role, and it's the people that they're looking for, they aren't out there. But they're turning down amazing talent because they might not come out of their shell the first time, because they might not be really interactive in their first interview, but that isn't what they're going to be doing, that isn't their job. And I think changing the sort of interview processes is going to be hopefully a really good thing for the future.
Very much so. Okay, does anyone have any other questions for Alice, or any tips or anything? If you put it in chat, there's not a lot of us, to be fair, so if you do want to take your mic off and ask or share any tips, then that's absolutely fine as well.
Kathy, I'll just have a look for that group for you.
Thank you.
Oh, find it.
Fabulous. Okay, so if that's all of the questions today, I think we'll wrap it up. So thank you so much to everyone who's joined us. I know it's been a very busy couple of weeks for people in the digital industry in Leeds, with the digital festival going off, and there's been so much choice to have a little look at. Please do share the link to this when I send it out to you for people to be able to watch afterwards. And I just want to say an absolutely massive thank you to Alice today. I've learned quite a lot myself, and I think that's something to keep in mind, that we're all learning and we're always going to be learning, and we have to listen and not feel offended or feel personally attacked or anything. It's all about listening and learning. So yeah, I could go on, but I won't. So thank you so much, Alice. Thank you to everyone joining us, and I will send out an email with links and resources from today. And yeah, thank you to Russell and Kathy for joining in. There's such a lot today as well. Very much appreciated. Have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
We can stay. I'll stop recording.